This hopefully can now reach the corners and I don't have to shout. Good morning, everyone, and special welcome to all the panelists. Thank you very much for being here. Professor Patil, thank you very much for inviting us. The way I would like to take this forward is briefly, I would love to have the panelists express their view in terms of what is their perspective, what is their exposure in terms of having dealt with analytics as we look at people management, as we look at people excellence, and the value it brings to the organization. Post that, we will get into queries within the panel. We will take about 30 minutes to 35 minutes to cover this, and then I will open up the floor to questions from the audience. Would that be fair? Amrita?
Yeah.
Why don't we start with you? You seem to have a very, very varied background and especially areas where there's a rich exposure into analytics.
Hello, am I audible?
Hi, so good morning to all of you. I think it feels great to be on the SITM campus, second time in last 6 months. So thank you so much. I think I've been a part of Bharti Airtel for 8 years now, and I think I have been one of the biggest testimonial to how as an organization we have, changed, an organization which has been selling SIM cards 8 years back. I think we are, today the front runners of, being the ICT, organization. We don't call ourselves service providers, but we are front runners in the ICT domain, the third largest telecom operator in the world. So how have we, changed ourselves? So on one hand, the business requirements were very different from someone who's selling SIM card to today someone who sells, SIM cards again. We also, apart from the retail industry, we deal with top corporate customers and we give them bundled solutions. We don't sell only SIM cards. Today we sell data center solutions. We, manage, the joint go-to-market strategies with various huge organizations, security organizations, consultants, other telecom operators. So I think this has thrown big enough challenge for HR in order to, get into, top gear and get the best of the guys. So, a few years back, we were just looking at people who had good experience in sales. But today we look at people who are sound technologically, because today if I understand how a data center works and how, my uptime would be almost zero, that is how I'm going to go and talk to my customers. So I have to have a very ideal blend of someone who has finesse for sales as well as who has, who's a pro at communications, who is a pro at technology and selling those technologies to the organization. Similarly, telecom has been one of the most volatile industry, that has existed at least in the past 1.5 decades. So we are on the lookout of people who are agile from the word go, because for us, right from the tariff plans being changing, the launch dates being changing, the products being changing, the first thing that we expect our people is to be highly flexible. So, if we ask someone that when do we want this to be executed, and the answer is it should have been done yesterday. So this is how, Airtel for that matter works, and this is how we want the culture to be imbibed upon, because that is how the entire telecom domain is, evolving. Now, how have we changed over a period of time is that, we have done a big repartee to, conventional methods of, recruitment. So we have moved more to, we moved from normal interviews to BEIs, FBEIs, focused behavioral interviews. I think we started doing that some 6-7 years back. And today, apart from, technical interviews, behavioral interviews, I think we have gone very deep into, checking how, they would perform, when we onboard them. So there are a lot of, analytical tools that we have tied up with a lot of organizations. We have tied up with companies like, brain mapping, mind mappers, etc. Prism tools and technology. So they are the ones who, so we have tied up with them, and we have done, gotten into deep discussions with our business leaders in order to understand how a high performer, in Airtel would look like. And we have done that profiling for more than, 12 to 15 positions in every function. And that is what we have given to those, those research organizations, and that is how they have developed, those extensive tools of 250, 300 questions, which eventually throw up, a light on how the person would come. So whether it is, very simple, that how would I be, when it comes to communication, how good I would be in initiation, how am I going to be on assertion, how am I going to be, on negotiation and influencing. I think these are some of the top, attributes that we are looking at in our employees. And, going by the psychoanalytical tools and, those psychometric tests, a battery of tests rather. So they are the ones who have been giving us, I can just vouch for, say, almost 100% results. And, today we have made it mandatory that, a person who's getting shortlisted has to undergo, and only then when he will get to, get into the final round of interviews. And it has been adopted almost 2 years back. And, today the way we are seeing the performance of our people, it is, it is in stark difference with what it used to be, 2-3 years back before we attempted this tool. Now this is one, am I on time?
Yes.
Okay. So one is that, one is psychometric test, which talks about, how am I going to be on assertion? How am I going to be on communication and influencing? Airtel, has a very strong concept called, our AIR values. So what is AIR values? We call them our DNA. And which is alive, inclusive, and respectful. Alive is that I'm alive to the volatility of the market. I'm inclusive as a telecom operator to the needs of the, market needs of my customers, and I will rise to every occasion possible, and respectful. So however small a community I'm serving, I might be serving some small microfinance company in Bangladesh, which happens to be a region that I operate in. I have to be respectful to the need. I will not only look at big chunks of business, but, I would look at, the trust that he has placed in us as an organization, and I'm there to support in every need of our for you. So not only do we value and do we gauge their competencies, we also try to see that if we hire a person, how high is he on AIR values? So, we have got extensive psychometric tests apart from these kind of tests, which, gauge them on these three: alive, inclusive, and respectful values. And if at all we have someone who has got excellent reports on the other psychometric tests, but if we feel that he's not respectful, I think Airtel is an organization brave enough to turn down such people. I don't think we would just walk away and we will take some more time, but we'll hire someone who gels with our kind of philosophy. So I think this is a big analytics. I think we have traveled a long way compared to what we were doing some 6 years back. Also, I think at, a lot of regional initiatives that we take. So for example, when I hire for my region, I ensure that I ask my recruiter that, did you check in his LinkedIn profile? So, who all are his connections? If there's someone whom I'm hiring at a medium level, I would love to go to his Facebook page and see where was he partying last night. Yeah, because that gives me a flavor of, how his taste is. How, what places does he go to? What does he read? LinkedIn would just mask, I myself would mask a lot of things on LinkedIn, right? But on Facebook, I wouldn't. I would want to put posters of my daughters and, where did I get my tattoo done, and did I go to the beer club and had a big mug of beer, right? So I think this is something which would give me the right sense of, that candidate. And if I feel that, okay, someone who has a tattoo on his right arm and he flanks around with his girlfriend, I think if my organization is okay with that kind of a person at a GM level, I think we'll go ahead and hire. But if I feel that, no, I think this is not someone we would not want to go ahead, we may want to evaluate other options also. So I think this is something that we also do at, we do it at our own levels. There is no mandate. But you know, I think that's my personal philosophy. I would always give it a punt, and trust me, it's worth it.
Thank you very much, Amrita. And
Is there
would
anything
love
else
to.
that you would want to know?
We will get into that quite a bit, but yes, it's not just a question of tattoo, but also a biker or profiles like that, and there's no limit. Devesh, you have a very alternate profile in terms of dealing with people who are already within the organization, looking at how they behave. Would you like to talk about how that perspective starts feeding into the kind of profiles, the kind of information, the kind of performance we want from people, and how do we start looking at leveraging that?
Uh, Before I start, good morning to all the students. Hope all of you are awake. I can see few sleeping heads behind. So time to time I'll ask you to wait. Okay, and good morning to all the seniors in the panel, all of you. Before I start, I thought Professor Patil stole my thunder. He had points to make on Naukri, DICE, Monster, not necessarily in that same order. But he did speak about some of the points which I thought, okay, probably I would be talking about them. So, not good. Okay.
Not good on part of your that now you have to come up with inventive thoughts at short notice.
Yes. So, that's what adaptability is all about. As human being, as organizations, as employees working in an organization, we have to be adaptable to anything which can happen at the snap of the finger. Technology is changing, so are human needs. I'll share a secret with all of you, a little personal one. Today when I came in and after I was getting dressed, I realized that I hadn't packed my belt. This is the new trouser I bought, and suddenly I realized that this may just slip off. So one of the student who was picking me up, I went to him very sheepishly and I asked him that, can you help me? I need a belt. And he was gracious enough to give his belt to me. But our sizes are different. At least I'm 2 sizes more than him. So that for me was being adaptive. Suddenly something has come. Similarly, that is how we work at Orange. So before I get into a little bit about what Sir asked me to talk about, let me give you an insight of what Orange is. So Orange Business Services, one of the leading telecom service provider in France, why France globally, champion in areas related to system integration and helping corporates world over, whether it's MNCs or SOHOs, to connect or to help them in connecting with their business in a very effective manner, providing them contact center solutions, helping them securing their infrastructure, giving them a lot of space through data centers, and also ensuring that their data is safe and instead of having it physically stored somewhere, it's on the cloud. The organization has its root right from the time of the French Revolution, so there is a certain legacy. What I practice and what my organization, one of the key values is simplicity. So that is what reflects in how we go in acquiring a talent. I was very interestingly hearing Ms. Kachru's point, because she was a competition. I was earlier working for Aircel, and Airtel used to be one of our hunting ground. We didn't used to go to the Facebook, so anything which is Airtel, good performer, do a good reference check and hire. And interestingly, ma'am, we have a relation now. So Orange has acquired Airtel's Africa business for certain African countries. So coming back to the point, simplicity should also reflect in how you go about and hire a talent. We are hiring talent in multiple areas. So we have our core major services center business, which is into how you interact with customers through competencies related to customer service and operations, whether it's supply chain, whether it's managing their backbone, etc. The other business is system integration. So we hire a lot of talent day in, or why not everybody is a talent, let's face it. So we hire a lot of people who have got very niche skill sets, whether it's areas related to security, whether it's into the network operations or into sales. Simple. Yes, we do hire a lot of people from LinkedIn. We don't go on Facebook and check other people's profile. Uh, but it's very important that when you get a person to be interviewed, how do you analyze? How is he as a fit to your organization? Culturally, it's very important. But also, what are some of the values which he's going to bring in and certain skill sets which he's going to bring in with him? So if I am hiring somebody to sell cloud, I can't go and hire somebody who is selling maybe software licenses. So for me, it's very important to know that how quickly I can understand the business, understand the requirement of the manager, and also be ready to support him as on yesterday's basis. So it's a common phenomenon, ma'am. Everybody needs people as of yesterday. So to summarize, hire a talent, do the necessary checks, but know who you are going to hire and how is he going to help your organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Devesh. Vishnu, very, very different background. A lot of aspirations or aspirants who want to get into the startups. The glamour is there. You have a reverse kind of a phenomena where at times I believe you get besieged with aspirants. Taking your choice, taking your pick. What drives that? What is it that you look at? How do you leverage some of the information from that large pool of aspirants for future activities?
Great. Good morning, everyone. First, actually, we don't connect to the topic. We are in business of making people look good, right? So, analytics is very, very serious stuff, right? Like we don't connect. But let's take a look why we are talking so much about analytics, right? There's only one company, I think, which made us all forced to look at analytics and drive analytics in much more serious fashion. And that company, we all know, we use it every day. It's called Google, right? They have built this phenomenon engine which tells you before you think also what you're thinking, right? And so the journey started from there, I think. And from there, as Sanjay put it, right, how do we go about engaging some of the talent which is there and attracting them eventually and making them work for us? So there are three parts I would like to talk about. First is there is a huge revolution around the social circuit, right? Be it LinkedIn, be it Facebook, or be it any other forum. Earlier, it was everything was there in recruiter's head. That's why what a single skill a recruiter would bring in is the network or the diary, what they carry with them, right? Which has all the numbers feeded in. But today the world's opened up. And how do you now from that use analytics, use certain systems and a systematic methodology to track the right, engage and attract the right individuals, right? So we have at Myntra first tried and understood what works for us, right? It's simple. We thrive on people who can deal with ambiguity, like most of the startups. We don't know. We take 10 steps and then we realize, oops, we made the wrong choice. Let's take a U-turn and then 6 steps back and then you move in a different direction, right? So somebody who is adaptable, somebody who can deal with ambiguity, and somebody who is extremely energetic, passionate about what they are doing, right? So these were the attributes what we found in individuals who were highly successful at Myntra, and we try to map out the same in the industry using LinkedIn analytics, using Facebook analytics, and trying to study a pattern, and thereby integrating with our behavioral interviews to attract the right candidate in, and then tracking their progress within the organization also. So we track this very religiously, that if somebody is a 5-rater, what was the performance index after 6 months? Because we do performance appraisal every 6 months. And after 6 months, what was the performance? After 1 year, what was the performance level? Is it correlating or it is not correlating? And if it is not correlating, then we go back and see who was the interviewer who rated on certain skill sets very high, and who were the interviewers who actually judged them on the attributes which are required for the functional attributes which are required for the job, right? And then go from there. So we delist some of the interviewers, we put some of the interviewers as star interviewers because they consistently find us the right talent, right? And then go from there, right? So we are trying to now see how we can benchmark this with the industry as well, right? Which are the companies which probably suit us the best? Which are the industries which suit us the best? So telecom suits us the best actually, as we were talking some time back as well. So why telecom? Because voice sells better than data. Voice sells over data right now, right? And data is everything. So eventually, I think they will make it free in terms of voice consumption for the consumer, but data is what which will make them get money and revenue into the kitty. So I'll leave it on that note. And
Thank you very much, Vishnu. Nisha, very, very different perspective I want to reach out to. While we are looking at talent acquisition, one of the ways I have looked at talent acquisition is also in terms of getting people skilled up. That's another way of looking at talent acquisition. Would you take a little bit time to talk from that perspective, that people who are already in there, how do we get them to adapt to new changing environments, and how do we get them to do that quickly?
Right. Good morning, everyone. Since you mentioned recruitment, I will touch base on what TCS does with respect to upbringing the talent that's already there in the organization. I'll also talk about a little data analytics in bringing in talent, because that's where I'm closely associated with. TCS now has gone digital in most aspects of the way HR functions. And default being digital, the whole digital reimagination started a couple of years back. Back then, we went through the whole process of recruiting people and realized that having it all on system helps in analytics. So we did away with the entire paper process of recruitment. So what that did for us is that when a student or a talent was recruited, the entire recruitment process, the parameters on which he was recruited, and what for, in a large organization, what for is very important. So all that was on system, and it's very easy then to keep track on it a couple of years down. As part of this whole digital reimagination, speaking about learning and development, reskilling the employees, we realized that ma'am mentioned agile. Most of our projects have gone agile. And with it being agile, what it means is associates cannot spare too much time for cross-training in a classroom setup. So as part of taking this whole digital forward, we realized that the classroom setup was not going to work, and what was really required was a platform, a digital platform, for wherein associates could go get trained at their own time, and building up my competency towards that. In the process of this whole thing being on the system, what I'm also doing is I'm tracking where my employees want to be. So say where one employee is not performing well, but at the same time is not really doing much to build on his competencies, I know that that's a problem area where we will have to look at. Maybe take time there. At the same time, the high performers, we know that they are constantly upgrading their skill set, their competencies are increasing, and we also have a very good career path built up on the basis of what we can track their performance on iEvolve. So this is from the L&D point of view, cross-training, as you had said. Coming back to campus, when we recruit freshers, it being a paperless process, a digital process, it's very easy to see a couple of years down, say 3 years down the line, when we look at which institutes to go to, what talent to take, a proper analysis, a data crunching is done, wherein we see how many joined, those who joined, how well did they perform, in which department did we take this particular institute of specialization for, and to what level are they performing now. So a good track on the high performers and low performers is taken from there, and we do believe that we do select good talent. And when we say their performance is low in the first year or second year, we believe that it's probably something that we are doing wrong in the resource management. Maybe we have allocated them to a particular line which they're not comfortable with. So this really helps. Tracking it down really helps in getting things in perspective and getting the best out of employees.
Thank you very much. Just as a perspective, one of the things I looked at recently was what would it take us as an organization or us as a set of organizations when we are interviewing somebody. There's a lot of public information which is available. Incidentally, there's nothing, the concept of privacy is dead, so that you all understand that. So there's a lot of public information which is available. There's an entire background profile on the individual which is available. There are results in terms of what we might want to subject them to in terms of information and checks which are more standardized today than an individual interviewer. Two ways to look at it. One, whether we train our interviewers to look for certain facets, to also supplementing that with certain other psychometric analysis to get that information. Combining that set with what the organization has already learnt about their employees, who have been good performers, who have been more adaptable, who have looked at doing innovative things, who are good at maintaining a level of discipline as part of the delivery. Now these are various facets which come into it. So who are the people who are successful along different facets? Is there a correlation between that starting data which we have on the individual to the performance inside? How do we get those people where at the time of bringing them into the organization, we have a much higher set of awareness and a much better level of confidence that this kind of a profile, this kind of a person would typically stay with us for so many years, would perform at this level. There would be some possibilities to improve that performance using a certain set of interventions, so that when the person is coming in, to some extent, we have an idea on the kind of path they will traverse and the kind of path which we can direct them to. Scary thought, in a way. Are we becoming that much close to robotics? But that is something which requires a lot of information, a lot of data. The data typically starts from inside, from the people who are already there, and then we are trying to look at bringing it into that. And that is achievable. It will take probably another 2 years, 3 years to have a proper approach to do that and enough information to be able to do that. So that is what I would like to get into and focus a little bit more.
Can I add to that?
Sure, absolutely.
No problem. Am I audible?
You can take this.
So actually, there's a lot of research going on in the same area what Sanjay is talking about, and one of the research it's called dots, moving dots, right? So what everyone is trying to understand by that is there are so every human being, every movement is a dot, right? And you can predict how the dots are moving and how efficiently they are moving. And this is used much more in sports right now, and they are using it in understanding behavior of the customer when they are buying and when they are trying to sell something, or even for effective movement of individual. How do you make yourself 10 times more efficient, right, and effective at your work or at your lifestyle? What are the things you need to do? And the dots make you analyze the data in a particular format, which will tell you that these are the things which were desired movements, but you did these movements which are wrong. So just watch out for these movements, and then you would be able to become much better player, much better individual, much more efficient. Like for buying patterns, they say move this here so that this is closer and it's easier to pick for somebody. Or even in online shopping, it's like move these things so that it's clickable and it's much more faster, right? So, and they claim this advanced technology, what they are using, is 2% meets 2% of complexity of human brain. So we are very, very far away from matching it to what human brain can churn out complexity. But the objective of doing all of this is to make this world a much better place. But God knows how they will interpret and use the data, right, tomorrow. But all analytics in the world is trying to, what they're trying to do is to make it much more streamlined, much more efficient. And in that, probably, we will never probably get to eugenics, but we will get to a state where we are far more efficient, right? And we will probably, in that time, we will save some time for ourselves to do better things. What do you want to do?
Thank you, Vib. Amrita, quick question for you. I was looking at what you were talking about. Your focus was primarily in terms of how do we get people coming in. Over time, their profiles change.
Right.
Over time, their involvement and their exposures change. So, what are the kind of interventions, what are the kind of measurements which you look at doing at that stage, which then need to go back to start looking again at refining the recruitment model?
So, can you repeat the second part of the question?
So,
one is that
what is the kind of information, what are the kind of types of activity which you focus on for people who have evolved better, to feed that back into what the recruitment model is like? What are the kind of things you're looking at recruitment being driven by such people?
So I think we have quite a robust talent management process, and people who get on board are a part of annual appraisals. And one of the most important criteria of evolving and evaluating their performance is the potential. So potential over a period of time, we check their potential for a plethora of roles, and as well as their readiness levels for those roles. So suppose if a person is hired as a key account manager, can he move as an engagement manager in a customer service over a period of time? Because those are aspirational roles. So so we have, over a period of time, we have stopped hiring people for a particular role. We have realized that it makes much life easier for us to take people who are who are mobile, who are agile, and who have the potential to move across functions and across profiles, because an internal guy would on any day be a better fit for any higher role than someone whom we put a punt on hire from outside, because he knows the nuances of the business. Now what happens is, when the evaluation happens in the initial time, we realize that, okay, if someone has a potential, but there is a development in 3 areas, I think there is where the HR gets into action and starts preparing development action plan for them. And then those interventions happen as on when it is required. Whenever those programs and interventions are chalked out for, I think it's our onus as HR to ensure that whatever is being decided for them is being offered to them at the right time. So whether it's a cross-functional project, or whether it's a classroom training, it's an online certification program, whatever is meant for them, decided for them, is being offered for them. And I mean, we have been successful to an extent. I wouldn't say that we have been successful to a great extent, but I think the experiment has worked out for us. But where we have faltered, where we realized that, you know, the experiment did not function. So, you know, if a person has been moved from, say, you know, sales to an engagement manager, where he has to, so a salesperson typically goes and picks up the deal, while an engagement manager manages the entire life cycle management. So if you have the potential to move in, say, next 18 months, you know, provided that you get 3 interventions, you get those 3 interventions in 18 months, in, say, 22 months, there is a position and we move you there, you perform well. But then, you know, over a period of time, we realize that you could not really scale up because of different dynamics. I think when we go back and do our homework right, that, you know, at least we go to our drawing board and see that where did we go wrong. So, you know, so potential is okay, that, you know, can I move from role A to role B, you know, over a period of time. But then, you know, sustainability is a big question. So I think along with potential, I would want to check the sustainability at point A. So I, you know, because I think, and there are certain things which are tried and tested over a period of time, because, you know, I mean, movement of roles, movement of talent, placing them is one thing, but seeing sustenance part is an important thing. So today I might be high performer in a new role, but do I, you know, because as I told you that agility, I'm happy to discover that agility is what most of the organizations are looking at. But if I'm not agile, you know, over a period of time, I think it's a recipe to suicide. So I think I get my homework done, that apart from, you know, X factor, what are the other 5-6 factors do I need to factor in while hiring someone? So this is something which is happening over a period of time. We have discovered it, you know, in a very tough way, but I think that is how human beings learn when they get into something new. So I hope it answers your question.
Thank you. Devish, quick redirect. You were talking about, and pretty much everyone talked about the value of adaptability which is required in today's environment. Telecom is a fast evolving field. It is probably today, if I can take the liberty of saying, it's evolving faster than the overall technology areas. When you start looking at skills and niche skills, that niche skill sooner or later becomes a challenge zone for the individual and for the organization, because there's a limit to the depth the person can go into. How do you look at the adaptability at the time of recruitment and during the life of the individual within the organization, and modifying that as part of, driven by information which you would have looked at elsewhere?
I go back and ask my salesperson, are you sure the kind of business you're bringing in, it is sustainable? So that was on a lighter note. It's a very important point. What do you do with the niche skills you hire? It could be a fad. It could be a requirement of the business for a growing amount of time. So few years back, M2M or Internet of Things was terminologies which isolated people had heard. Now it's very much part of the game. For an organization like Orange, selling contact center solutions or audio or video conferencing products is kind of a thing of the past. Now when we hire niche skills, certain niche skills for us could be for OEMs like Riverbed. I think some of you would have heard about that. Juniper. Juniper is not so niche now. But I'll give you an example. Once I was told to hire an e-bond developer. I had only heard about James Bond. I didn't know what was an e-bond. So I went to him and I asked, what does an e-bond person do? So he said some complicated thing. He explained that he does some integration work and all that with a lot of jargons. I was not able to understand. I sat with him. I asked him questions. He was patient. He made me understand a lot of things. And yes, e-bond was a niche requirement. Where was I getting e-bond person? Either organizations like Amazon, which doesn't falls into the same area as Orange from an industry perspective, or maybe some of the other organizations which are more into the development side. So they moving from development to telecom for them was a question that how is this role going to progress in the organization? We still went and hired few people. Now that was a niche hiring at that point of time, but now that requirement has gone slow because business doesn't seize the same potential in that. What do I do with that person? He's still continuing to perform. He still sits in the client premises and work, but I have an opportunity of losing out on that talent. That is where our organization actively promotes T-skilling, or you should have, whether it's a talent or how a manager identifies a person should have an experience of multiple skills, which are some of the relatable skills in which you can go and adapt. So again, buzzword for our panel discussion has become adaptability. So how do you go and adapt? Otherwise you would lose out. So we have other niche skills which will continue to be a part of business. So Cisco subject matter experts with CCI written and certified are niche hiring for us. Getting those kind of talent is very tough. But we ensure that we keep a Hawkeye approach on that person without getting into the area of snooping on that person really. But making sure that we are actively engaged with that talent. Business is also serious in getting requirement from customers which are going to continue over a period of time and which doesn't turns into a fad like e-bond. How do we engage? We do a lot of interventions which I am sure a lot of organizations do. Active engagement with talent through whether you do a mentoring and coaching, bringing him up to the mark, or you do some kind of cross-skilling that person. Also, if he falls under your talent pool, how do you plan for the succession of that role? So if that person moves out or that role goes out, who is the next best person to come and take over that responsibility? So that is how we do. Just taking a bit from digressing from the topic, and what Vishnu mentioned was about data. So that is where data also comes into picture to an extent in a smaller way. So what Vishnu said, all of you would know that was big data, the latest innovation, latest marvel. I was trying to understand what is big data. So when you have tons and tons of terabyte of data, then you try to analyze the data from the data. So it's complicated, I don't understand. But realistically, all of us, we are looking at having a large amount of data and breaking into small fragments, keeping a very close approach on the niche skill part. Who you hire, how sustainable he would be over a period of time, how adaptable he is in learning new technologies. Otherwise, we are upfront in going to the person and saying that tomorrow your skills may go redundant. So, sir, that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Shan, taking you back to a slightly different perspective. One of the things I have always been impressed by TCS is the longevity of the employees. What is the thing you look for historically and more recently in people which gives you assurance partly of the potential of longevity from a recruitment perspective? Obviously, the interventions as part of the organization which you talked about earlier in terms of allowing them to develop make a difference. But what is it that is there that's the key at the time of the recruitment?
Okay, longevity of the employees basically does come from the interventions that is in place once they're in the organization. Also, what a person would look at while working is it getting too monotonous? And in TCS, the multiple domains that they do offer, that TCS does offer, gives enough avenues for a person to keep shifting and the monotony is moved out. That's one of the main reasons. But looking at the recruitment point of view, what quite a few companies do is they do look at stellar academic track record. The stellar academic track record of students, talent in prestigious organizations and institutes and schools. But what we have established through quantitative analytics is that as a parameter, demonstrated ability to take initiative is a much, much more efficient and better predictor of high performing candidates. So when we do select, when we do our recruitment, we do look at how the student has probably taken initiative, has demonstrated initiative, because that really shows that in a fast moving IT organization, will he adapt? Will he be open to take initiatives? Will he be open to reskill? Will he be open to change? And if he's open to change, then he's certainly going to be comfortable in the environment.
Thank you. Quickly, for my fellow panel members, any other areas they would like to speak on before I open it to the audience for their queries? If not, one of the things I would like to say, we have been talking a lot in terms of recruitment and people built. You might be surprised, we have not talked anything directly onto analytics side. Why would that be so? Let me put it across in two different perspectives. In HR, we always had tons of data. Only now we are getting into zones where we are leveraging some of that information more effectively to leverage onto other areas. However, to do it on an ever expanding manner to bring in more and more information to bear is still a long-term activity for pretty much every talent management area, every HR area. That is why you see only snippets of that coming out as part of our conversation. So please be aware of that. When we talk about psychometric tests, that is definitely a huge item. When we talk about capturing the information at the time of recruitment, that's another specific piece which goes into play. Performance and the historical performance perspectives, but performance perspectives along with the kind of activity they were doing. Those two correlated together start making a difference. And that is where slowly we are trying to figure out a way, can we move from individual points of brilliance, whether on the recruitment or on the employee, to create a perspective where we can do it more frequently. I would not say 100% of the time, because even when we do it at 70%, the 30% where it did not work feeds back into the system to do a further refinement. Plus, apart from the 100% in the system, there is 500% in our environment, which will always cause turbulence, which we cannot predict. So please be wary on those things. With that, I would like to invite questions from the audience, and you can direct it to the panel, you can direct it to an individual. I will leave the opportunity to you. So please, your queries.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shilpi Sinha, and I'm from System and Finance first year MBA. So basically, I want to ask a question to you, sir. That you mentioned that we are going more and more robotic in hiring process. Don't you think, sir, especially for the e-commerce industry, for the startup, won't it be restricting innovation? Because they think for different things. They think for something out of the box. So when we hire same type of a person, same profile that we already have in the company, then won't it be restricting the innovation in the students, the employee that is coming in?
I will go to another aspect which I said. There are areas where we look for innovation or innovators. There's other area where we look for highly disciplined people who are the process managers, who will not innovate until and unless they have reached a point of breakage. Both of these coexist. In Myntra's environment, there's a higher propensity of getting innovators, and then there's a slight different quality on innovators. They feed on each other's energy. There is a consummate need to challenge what is existing, and that exchange of ideas drives to a much higher level. It's an exponential kind of increase. which makes a difference. So getting more innovators in an environment which is very quickly evolving is required. At the same time, don't underestimate the need for the disciplined people. Both are specific skill sets which need to exist within any organization in a balance. You want to add anything differently onto that, because you have a first-hand exposure onto that?
In continuation to that, actually, what I completely agree with Sanjay, and I think we're not definitely trying to make it, like a robotics exercise, but there's something called as culture, right? So, organization wants to build a certain kind of culture. Google has built a certain kind of culture, right? They've set a benchmark out there, and then there is a new company today who's got 50 people and they are 19 billion valuation, and it's called WhatsApp, and they have completely changed the entire dynamics of how you need to view talent. If 50 people organization can get a valuation like that, so everyone is trying to understand what did they do differently that they have been able to outbeat everyone, right? And till such time Google bid them for $10 billion, nobody even cared for WhatsApp, right? But today everyone is looking at how do I make my talent pool equivalent or as fewer people and as efficient as WhatsApp had done, right? So that can be only possible if you are getting the patterns right, right? And if you get the patterns right, then there are different people. It is a heterogeneous crowd. You can never become homogeneous anyways, right? But you will at least build the culture what you want to build in a right manner.
More questions, please. One here. Go ahead, please.
In the backdrop of analytics, talent analytics, which factors in the scorecard, balanced scorecard, or as a fact, any grading scheme have changed or are important or have reinvented themselves today as from the perspective of hiring? If the panel could highlight on the factors in specific.
Anybody wish to take that as a perspective? I will take a first shot at it, and I would like to invite further comments. One of the areas which we used to look at was in terms of the stability of the individual at the time of hiring, the level of intelligence of the individual. This was the traditional method. What has been the exposure, how the person has looked at the things. Now we look at, as part of the interviews, challenging a person with contradictions. See how quickly they grapple with terms. And a lot of times an experienced interviewer can set up the contradiction based on what the interviewee has been saying. How quickly do they grapple with their own created contradiction? And that makes a lot of difference in terms of looking at the adaptability or the quick thinking perspective onto that. Any other perspectives, please?
Yeah, so I think I would just add on to what Sanjay was telling is that, while so a lot of organizations have got into this terminology called the pressure tests. So pressure tests are, putting you down with one questions after the other and throwing a volley of questions till you just scratch your head and you would want to just vanish from the room. So that is one part of it, because that is how we would want an organization, those kind of organizations would want to understand, how quick-witted you are, how immediately can you answer, and whether you have answer to handle those kind of situations. I'll just take another example. I found it quite interesting. It doesn't do with analytics much, but I was reading on how P&G does recruitment, and for certain positions in P&G, they make the person sit in the conference room for as long as 9 hours. And they have put CCTVs to understand, the body language of a candidate for 9 hours. What does he do? Does he scribble? Does he call? What does his body language tell us about him? Because, if you talk about big data, so I think, P&G and, the likes of P&G and HUL are the ones who grapple and deal with big data the most. And they are the ones, probably the speed at which a distribution company, an FMCG company works. I think there is where they might look for persistence, perseverance, and whatever it is, patience. And I found it very interesting that they look at the body language and they would want to see that if you can put up with me for 9 hours, in an absolutely ambiguous situation, are you worth the salt, and do I give you that kind of moolah and get you in? I think that was an eye opener for me as a recruiter.
Interesting perspectives.
9 hours, I'll die. Okay, so very interesting. I thank you for telling this. I didn't know if such a thing existed. Once I was interviewed for 5 hours. I thought I had reached the benchmark. So I had back-to-back 2 rounds of interviews which stretched till 5 hours. And a lot of times I found myself repeating the information. So the interview came with a long sheet of questions, but he did the expectation setting. So when he came, he said, listen, I have a lot of questions to ask you. So it was like a CBI inquiry. I said, okay. And then he started 1, 2, 3, 4. Last count, it went till 35, 40 questions. And then again, another one came in. I am with Sir when he pointed out that what has changed, it's how you look at a candidate. In fact, the entire mindset has changed. It has got a lot to do with the opportunities available with the candidates. Even if you look at telecom, a lot of skills have become industry independent. So Bharti Airtel and Orange and Myntra are diverse. Airtel and Orange are diverse because they are moving from SIM to ICT. We were already into ICT. Now we are also bordering on the line which would lead us towards the application development or the development side. Since the candidate has got too much of options, those days are gone when you can follow a set pattern. So you don't mind, even for a technology company like me, there are certain roles which are into supply chain and into other areas. I'm very open to look at candidates from e-commerce or from a mobility operator like Bharti or even from TCS. That has changed the game. So there are plenty of opportunities available for all of you. In fact, you are the king now.
I think I would want to add one more thing. Sorry if I'm just taking out some more time. But then, today organizations are talking big time about diversity. And, unlike what diversity till probably 2-3 years back was that hiring more of women professionals, I think people are talking a lot in terms of, I would want, so I have my hiring managers coming and telling me that, Amrita, tum is geography ka banda leke aao. I would want to see someone who has handled BFSI, or, I would want, someone who has handled FMCG. So, so there is a lot of this diversity thing going on. So, while there was a time, as I told you, having been in an organization for a very long time, you are a testimonial to how, a concept has changed. I think hiring managers and business has moved away from taking straight jacketed guys that, if I want to hire someone in telecom, I think my first pick would be a TCL and probably a Reliance. Unfortunately, we have no poach with Idea and Voda. But, today we look at that, if I have to sell a data center, I think TCS would be my choice, of an organization where I pick up a bright guy from TCS. Or if I have to, we are into network integration and professional services, I would want to pick up people from Uniper, right? So if it's a good techno commercial smart guy in Uniper, talking networks, I would want to, place my bet on him and hire him as a sales guy because he understands technologies. All I am, evaluating him is for his ability to go and talk to the customer and make a deal. So I think, given a choice, so as he said that, people have plethora of options because evolving organizations and matured organizations are big time on diversity these days. So we would want to see, we would want to capitalize more on the background of the candidate. Today, if someone is coming from a Flipkart or Myntra, so we would want to, so the first mindset is कि ये बंदा तो कुछ अलग ही करता है. So जो अलग करता है उसको लेके आओ. So I think there is where the, such people have an advantage.
Quick, we are running out of time. Last 2 questions, please.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. I have a question here. we all talked about using analytics in talent acquisition and in hiring. So, do we see a future in analytics of curbing the attrition rate which every company is facing in this global environment?
If you remembered one of the things I said, I would love to evolve to a level of analytics. When we are recruiting somebody, we know the longevity of the person, and that is focused on to multiple items, but the key focus is attrition, because when you lose someone, a replacement to reach that level takes a longer time, much longer time, and that is a loss for any organization.
Organizations are now anticipating attrition. So recruitment is important. You get a body into the system, what do you do with it? So there are, and this is not something which is very mind boggling. A lot of organizations do it, something called as infant mortality. So the person, when he comes into the system, organizations do a 30, 60, 90-day dipstick. They see a progression. Until 90 days, a lot companies consider 3 months to be as infant. Some also go till 6 months. That's when you try to anticipate that what is happening with this person. Whether you give him a buddy, whether you give him a coach or a mentor, or HR goes out of the way and speaks with that person, or the dipsticks happen. So attrition is expected from day one. There are cases in a lot of organizations where people have joined and have left the second day, because either they were testing waters, they already had offers in hand, or maybe they just didn't like the organization. So yes, very, very important. And attrition, not only from a tenure perspective, it is also to do with skills, with diversity, with technology, role. So all sorts of anticipations are going on, and we're working on building interventions around it.
One last question.
So I have this question, if I'm allowed to ask as a faculty. A very specific question. We're talking about hiring, yeah, and like very specific to our institute, which I would like to ask, is our students are learning technology, they're learning business like marketing and finance, and they are learning management. Okay, so what are those typical profiles which your company offers, and if you can just tell us those profiles a little bit brief, because pre-sales in maybe Orange and Airtel would be different, pre-sales for a Mantra would be different, and the skill sets. The reason why I'm asking you is because so the students prepare accordingly, and so as faculty we align the curriculum accordingly.
Any e-commerce company, right, will not associate with most of the things whatever we've been talking here, especially on longevity and all of that. In fact, we want healthy attrition, right? Like because of multiple reasons, right? There is business is growing at 200x, and it's impossible almost to cope up with that kind of a rate of growth. And if somebody is able to grow that along with us, then that person will feel absolutely on top of the world, and we guarantee that, right? And like that person will see every day walking, talking like a god in the organization, because it's very hard to do that, right? And I'll come to that. So we typically look for, as I said already, we have there are certain skills which we look at in terms of not skills, actually traits. The person should be able to have ability to work long hours. When I say long hours, should have mental stability, right? Like we do 13 rounds of interviews for any person who comes into the organization. Minimum rounds would be 6, right? And so you can be rest assured that the person is fried after the interviews are done. I'm pretty sure it's in any other startup, right? Because one thing what you want to know from them is, do they have the ability to work till 12 o'clock and then come back fresh at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then again have the same vigor, same analytical skills, same amount of passion and drive towards results, right? So that's one. And then the other important thing which I was telling about is that digital savviness, right? It's very important for us that somebody understands digital and can connect to analytics. Like if you see any of the e-commerce site, right? When you open them, each person gets a different feel, right? The reason is that there's a lot of analytics which runs behind it, and they read your pattern of buying, and then they start putting those things in the forefront which you are clicked more or you're seen more and stuff like that. So one, digital savviness; second, mental stability; third, energy, what you have; and fourth, probably pure analytical skills or intellect, right? Coupled with emotional quotient as well, because you need to be able to balance yourself. We don't want tomorrow you to be so down, emotionally depressed, or emotionally drowned in your problems because you're grappling with so many things at one time. So the roles which we offer in any of the management institutes are for business analysts, marketing professionals, then operations professionals who would be in SCM side or any other category side or something. And the last one would be either in human resources or finance. So this is one of our core requirement, right? When somebody comes into the organization, we generally ask them, okay, so do you use any of the platforms, right? And how effectively you use, what do you use it for, right? And then we ask them more questions on if they, so like for example, I don't use Facebook. I'm absolutely anti-Facebook, right? But I like WhatsApp because it's much more private, right? So am I using any of the platforms which are social and which we connect? And I'm very avid LinkedIn user as well, right? So when I'm talking about it, then I will ask multiple examples of, okay, how do you do this if you want to trend in top 1 percentile in your network, right? Which would entail most of the CEOs and all of that. If you are in the top 1 percentile of that, that means you are doing something right, right? In terms of positioning yourself, in terms of what kind of comments do you write and things like that, right? So those all are important thing for us because we are only present digital, right? And if you don't understand digital world, then it's impossible for you to succeed. So somebody who says that I will not shop on mobile, we just say we don't want to talk to somebody like that. That's all. Yeah, that's why I put my case forward first itself, right? Like we will be very different from most of the, and pretty much the same in housing.com. I'm pretty sure he would say the same thing if you ask Ajay.
Anybody else want to add anything?
So I think, similar to what he was telling that, we would want to understand that, how does he use the social media for and what exactly do you use for? So I was, reading an HBR review and it said that some of the organizations, so it did not name those evolved organizations, but they hire senior people only primarily by, their LinkedIn tweets. The Twitter tweets. And it says that, if I have to hire someone at a, middle, an upper middle and a senior level, I would want to understand the maturity that person has about any social issue. How frequently does he go to a Twitter? What all things does he follow? Which kind of people does he follow? And what are the comments he makes? Because that is a reflection of how you think. And, if I have to write and tell that, okay, Yaqub Memon was innocent, I think that talks a lot about my integrity and my character. Now, does NHUL want to hire me as an individual? I think they'll have to take a call, right? So I think that is how people are hiring. They look for your Twitter tweet and they decide.
My worry is one thing. The organization HBR is talking about is Twitter. I would have trouble on that.
I would like to add one more thing, right? So for all the people out here, or the students out here, you guys have a phenomenal opportunity at this point of time. World set right for you, right? In this era, if anyone is at a great disadvantage, is somebody who has experience under their belt, right? And the reason is that the moment you have experience, you have baggage. And the moment you have baggage, you are not a fit in lot of companies. In an era where you are breaking down the supply chain, you're inventing, reinventing business models, you will have to be creative. You will have to stand up on your feet and say, I don't care for a job. I have enough confidence in myself and I will build a $1 billion company. And that's the guy probably most of the companies want to look at, but you would not want to join any company, but you will set up your own company. And all the best to all of you guys. If you are able to do that, and if you have to instill that confidence in you, then you will have to study and work hard.
Thank you, everyone. Let me summarize a little bit, and I will not take more than 30 seconds, only on the last question. When we look at what is it that we want people like, if I can boil it down to only 3 quick items. Ability to learn, because the ability to learn defines ability to evolve. Second is an analytical capability. Are you able to analyze a situation and accordingly act on it? That is critical, because that is where the judgment, that is where the decision making starts coming into play. And the last item is ability to communicate. Why? It's not only us that we have to change, or it's not only you who will have to change, but I look at all of you as people who will drive people like us to change. And for that, communication is very important. Those are the 3 things which are critical. Any other skills, based on these 3 skills, most of the skills can be picked up. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I know we are a little bit over time. Appreciate your flexibility. Thank you very much for being a kind and a driving audience. Thank you very much.